A very good afternoon to everyone. Today we are looking at the pricing policy within the marketing topic. What's interesting about the pricing policy, it is the only one of the four marketing tools that brings in an income. So pricing is very important because it generates money for the business. Consumers will pay money for a product if they think it will satisfy a need or a want. Every manufacturer, wholesaler, retailer, and consumer is concerned with pricing. In any sales transaction at any point in the channel of distribution, price is often the determining factor as to whether or not the deal will close. Price can be very important to the consumer, and businesses must monitor consumer responses to price and price changes. So let's just quickly give a definition of price. It is the monetary value of a product that a consumer is prepared and able to pay. Next, we're going to be looking at a number of pricing techniques. But what you must remember is that pricing is often affected by external factors from the macro environment over which the business has no control. For example, competitors, government policies, increasing our VAT from 14% to 15%, the exchange rate plummeting. So all of these things will affect pricing. So businesses need to decide on a pricing technique or a set of techniques which will help them to determine the final price. So we're going to look at the first one, psychological pricing. This is used to give the impression that an item is cheaper than it really is. So, for example, if a TV game was worth 2,000 Rand, but instead it's put on the price tag as 1,999 Rand. So it gives the illusion that it's not quite 2,000, it's just under. Odd pricing, however, is when the final product includes an odd number at the end of the price. So the price ends either with a number 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9. Again, this is an illusion that something is cheaper than what it actually is. Just going back to psychological pricing, I know that if I spend something and it's 1,999 Rand, let's say, and my husband will say, oh, how much did you pay for it? I'll always say, oh, 1,000 Rand, whereas actually really it's 2,000 Rand that I paid for. But we won't tell him that secret, will we? The next pricing technique is what we call bait pricing. This is a policy whereby products are advertised at prices that are usually lower than what the actual item costs. So it's below cost price. It is used to attract customers into a shop to buy this and other items. A retailer may have a special on TVs, but only in small quantities. So for example, there really are only 2 or 3 of these TVs available at that very low price. This type of pricing is unethical and is usually avoided by the middleman. Okay, so bait pricing, you're baiting your customers to come in order to buy really low priced items. However, when they are in your store, you then tell them you're out of stock and you're now trying to sell them something that costs a lot more. It is unethical. The next pricing technique is something called skim pricing. So I've got a diagram there, and if you look at it, you can see price skimming starts at a very high price early on when it's introduced into a market. So it gives this illusion that it's a new, innovative product, and you must have it because it's prestigious. So higher prices are charged in the beginning, but as people become more used to these products and inventors now start making more and more of the same product, the price drops drastically. And I can think of TVs. This has certainly happened in that realm. So that is called skim pricing. The price starts high and then it comes lower. This isn't in our curriculum, but penetration pricing is the opposite. You're wanting to get into a market, so you're using penetration pricing. You're offering something at a very low price, and as people get used to it, you start increasing the pricing. I often see this happen with new types of chocolates that are on the market. They come out at a relatively cheap price, and then before long, you're almost paying 2-3 Rand more for that same chocolate. So we've looked at different types of pricing techniques. Now we're going to look at how do you determine the actual price. So the first step in determining the price of a product is to know the product's cost price. A business must consider the actual cost price of making that product that it intends to sell. The selling price must cover that cost price and all other expenses, whether it's transport or insurance, that are necessary to sell that product. The second step is to determine the market price, and that is actually the price the consumer is prepared to pay for that product. Now remember, consumers weigh up the value of what the product can do for them and set a price on that value. The third step is to determine the target price. The target price includes the profit margin, which must be added to the total cost of the product. And then the final step is to determine the final price, which is the price at which the product will be sold to the consumer. This price is based on the market price and the target price. We're now going to be looking at the methods of calculating the final price. And there are three types of methods. The first one is cost-based pricing. Then we have competition-based pricing or market-based pricing. And what we're going to do first is we're going to look at the different types of cost-based pricing. The cost-based pricing method sets the basic price aligned to the cost of the product and covers the real price of production, distribution, and sales costs while adding a reasonable profit. So the first cost-based pricing that we're going to look at is the cost plus pricing. All right, so this is where you take the cost of an item and then you add on a percentage markup or a profit margin that you want to make it at. If we look at this picture, you can see the cost of that sandwich is 100 Rand. We want to add 50% profit margin, and so we sell it for 150 Rand. That sandwich better taste really good at that price. The second cost-based pricing is what we call break-even analysis. This is the calculation of the point at which the number of items that are made and are sold where no profit or no loss is made. So how many units do I need to make and sell before I've made no profit or no loss? That is seen as break even. The third one that we're going to look at is what we call demand-based pricing. This is a technique where the calculation of the price is based on the price that consumers are prepared to pay. A demand-based formula can be used to determine the best prices for maximum profits. The basic principle of demand price is to charge high prices when the demand is high and low prices when the demand is low. So we just need to think of the coronavirus. And if we look at this picture, here's a gentleman saying, you're going to die unless you take this injection. So the lady's prepared to pay 100% of her life savings. The demand is really high for that product. Think of tickets to music concerts. As we get closer and closer to the music concert and all the tickets are sold out, people start charging more for the tickets that they bought because the demand is so high. So to summarize, we looked at the cost-based pricing, which was the cost plus, the break-even, and the demand-based pricing. Now we look at competition-based pricing. Right? One of the easiest methods of pricing is to look at your competitors, to look at their prices as a starting point for determining what you are going to charge for your products. Consumers will only change their supplier and buy more for a product or pay more for a product if they think that that product offers more value. Right? So possibly your after-sales service is better with competition-based pricing. Then we're going to look at market-based pricing. The number of sellers and buyers in a specific market will influence the price for that item. And we're going to look at words like monopoly, oligopoly. So here we go. With market-based pricing, we have what we call an oligopoly. Right? That is when you have a few large businesses who dominate the market by selling the same product at similar prices. And here we can think of MTN, Vodacom, Cell C. They are the big players in the cell phone network industry, right? So it's an oligopoly. A monopoly, on the other hand, they control the price of a specific product because they are the only suppliers. So Eskom is an example of a monopoly. Perfect competition is when there is supply and demand for things, and the JSE is really the platform where perfect competition exists because it's all about supply and demand. A monopolistic competition, however, is when there are lots of people selling similar products. However, there is one dominant supplier in this whole competition. And if we look at Coca-Cola, they outstrip all other soft drinks. So they would have a monopolistic competition. They aren't the only one, but they are certainly the biggest one. We are now going to look at the factors that influence the pricing policy of a business. So the first one is competitors' prices. The price that competitors charge is a determining factor that influences the setting of the price. There is often a substitute product available which consumers might prefer. The marketing manager might suggest to set prices above, below, or at the same price as that of the competitor. Changes in consumer tastes and habits. The buying behavior of consumers varies according to the type of product that is bought and whether it is bought for the first time. If the demand for the product is high, or if the product is brand new, a higher price can be charged. And we can just think here of hygiene, and with the coronavirus, how many alcohol-based cleaning soaps are now available on the market because our tastes and habits have changed. Changes in consumer income. So if your dad has got an increase and now he has more disposable income, you're going to see that he's going to start buying different things. So the products that fall outside the price range that consumers are prepared to pay or are not able to afford will not be bought. Then we look at changes in production costs and time. Costs and expenses comprise one of the most important factors influencing the price of a product. Businesses cannot sell products at less than what the product actually cost. And lastly, supply and demand. Supply and demand can influence prices, especially in the primary sector. And if we look at farming, agricultural products are often in oversupply in summer, while shortages exist out of season. And this is why you'll see such a fluctuation in prices of potatoes or tomatoes or even bananas when they are out of season. And finally, we look at price adjustments. After the final price has been determined by the organization, strong customer and competitor responses to the price for a product could lead to price adjustments. You may offer cash discounts or quantity discounts if people buy in bulk, or seasonal discounts when it's out of season. So you'll say, come for the midweek and get an extra night. So all of these things are about adjusting the prices after they have been set. And that is the end of our pricing policy.